My name is Ashley Truscott and I'm Head of Marketing at BDO in South Africa. As we start to see the light at the end of the tunnel of this devastating pandemic, many businesses are looking at ways to get back into the game as quickly as possible. But you can't do that if your clients or your potential clients and customers don't know who you are or what you do. Marketing is as crucial to any business as cash flow, but it is often not treated that way. Our presenter today, Donna Rachelson, is here to unpack that for us in the context of the global pandemic. But before we start, just a few words about BDO. So for those of you who don't know us, we have been the fastest growing professional services firm for the last 10 years. Our service offering is diverse, ranging from audit and tax to a range of advisory services from corporate finance to sustainability to risk advisory and human resources consulting and a lot of other services in between. And we do this for clients from private individuals through to the public sector and JSE listed companies. Just a few housekeeping issues to note before we get started. You are automatically on mute, so you won't be able to speak to us. You will only be able to hear us speak to you. So if you have a question, please type it into the Q&A section, and then we will get to the questions at the end of Donna's presentation. If we can't get to all the questions, then we will invite you to either email us directly, or we will be able to email you if you provide us with your email address. So let's get started. Donna, over to you.
A little bit about me. I've got a strong background in branding and marketing. Started life at African Explosives and Chemical Industries as their marketing manager. I was also a marketing manager at Standard Bank and marketing director for Nandos, as well as the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, as well as a supply chain management called DNA Supply Chains. I'm also quite an avid investor. I have 2 investments in the fintech space and also 2 in the social impact space, where my focus is on helping women and youth fast track their businesses. I have written a few books, in fact 4 to date. I'm extremely proud that 2 of them are bestsellers, one of them being Branding and Marketing You, about personal branding, and the other one called Play to Win, What Women Can Learn from Men in Business. My passion really centers around helping business owners, helping women, and helping corporate go-getters make their mark. So what excites me is helping other people find their areas of excellence. My sanity in life is my family. I've just celebrated my 20-year wedding anniversary and have 2 gorgeous children. And my other sanity is chocolate. I eat chocolate every day. A day doesn't go by when I don't have a piece of it. Please don't ask me to cook, although I must say that my cooking skills have improved a bit since COVID-19. And please don't ask me to look after plants, because for some reason they always die. Let's go to the next slide, please. So I wanted to take you all back to the year 2013. I don't know if you remember that year, but it was quite a fascinating year. It was the year of the Boston Marathon killing, where 3 people were killed and 300 were injured. It was also the year that the words twerk and selfie were added to the dictionary. Nelson Mandela died that year, as well as Paul Walker from Fast and Furious fame. Prince George was born, and Kim and Kanye West had a daughter. I can't remember exactly what her name was, but it was very strange. It was Northwest or Northeast or something along those lines. Steve Martin, believe it or not, became a dad for the first time at the age of 67. And what was fascinating about 2013 was this was the year that social media was here to stay. And in fact, the Pope signed onto Twitter for the first time in 2013. But what was really interesting was that people didn't really understand how to garner social media and how to get the most of it from a marketing perspective. And then at the center of all of this was the famous Oreo tweet. During the Super Bowl at the Superdome in New Orleans, there was a short loss of power. And as the stadium descended into darkness, the social media team sprung into action and tweeted, "Power out, no problem, you can still dunk in the dark." And the marketing world went absolutely mad. They were claiming that this tweet was going to change social media forever, that Twitter was going to outdo Super Bowl advertising, and that marketing had changed forever. What was fascinating is that if you look at the metrics of an ad like this in terms of reach, in terms of engagement, and in terms of impact, it actually wasn't that superb in terms of what was achieved. But really, there was this big thought that marketing had changed forever. Next slide, please. So it's evident that as we navigate this time, this COVID-19 pandemic, there is much hysteria. You've heard the prediction that there's going to be a complete change of consumer expectation, consumer behavior, and everything's going to change, and you have to get used to the new normal. Well, in my mind, forget about the new normal and be wary of those people who believe that the world of marketing will change forever. Why? Because in my mind, what you really need to be doing is replace change or die with calm down. So if you don't mind going to the next slide. So the new normal actually depends on the same sensationalism that most marketers had with the social media tweet in 2013. To succeed in tough times, you really need to calm down. When everybody else is panicking, you need to think rationally, and you need to trust reliable data over sensationalism. And there's a lot of sensationalism out there. Next slide, please. In essence, what's quite comforting is that while marketing has evolved, it remains a core process in your business that needs to be executed consistently. And the fact of the matter is it needs to be executed consistently, be it in good times or bad times. Yes, the new digital world is out there, but it plays according to the old rules of the marketing world. So yes, you're probably going to have to challenge your business model, and you're probably going to have to be more innovative. But marketing done systematically can help you navigate any crisis. Next slide, please. And what I wanted to show you was a few businesses that very effectively challenged their business model. So the first was Net Florist. Within the first days of lockdown, suddenly was, producing and delivering fresh fruit and vegetables. Next slide. The next one was Tiger Wheel, that had a home collect service. So really pivoted their business model quite significantly. And next slide, please. Please don't ask me about this, but Candies now offers drive-through strip. So some great examples of how companies have actually pivoted their business model and been really innovative. Next slide, please. So let's just touch a bit on what is marketing. And I guarantee that if I went to each and every one of you on this webinar and asked you for a definition of marketing, you would give me very different responses. The fact of the matter is that marketing is always evolving. What we do know is that we've moved beyond the 4 Ps of marketing: price, product, place, and promotion. And marketing today is going to be very different to what it is next month. So I like to simplify things. And a nice definition that I like of marketing is it's the process of getting a prospect who has the need for your service to know you, to like you, and to trust you. And I really want to emphasize that trust is a major cornerstone of marketing, and probably an area that we don't place enough attention to. Once you have a prospect who knows, likes, and trusts you, then you want to ensure that they buy you, that they rebuy you, and that they refer you and recommend you to other people. But ultimately, the task of marketing is get a prospect to know, like, and trust you. Next slide, please. Marketing to be effective also needs to be very disciplined, consistent, and habitual. As business owners, what we tend to do is we have systems for a lot of things in our business. Most business owners have a financial system. They have a human resources system. They have a product development system. But invariably, when we work with businesses, what we discover is that most of them don't have a system for marketing. And I don't know if you can resonate with what I'm saying to you, but kind of my eating went off the track during lockdown. And I engaged with a dietitian, and I was good most of the time, had a few bad days, and was quite disappointed when I went each week to the dietitian. And she said to me, you haven't actually lost weight. And I said, but that's strange. I've been good most of the time. And what she said to me is that doesn't help. You actually need to practice good eating habits each and every day. And then based on that, you're going to see a result. And the same applies to marketing. You're not going to see those results right away, but you do have to focus on ensuring that you practice marketing consistently. Next slide, please. So what I want to cover in the presentation today, in the context of marketing yourself out of a crisis, is firstly to focus on strategy. In fact, you now need to look at your strategy more than ever. The next aspect that I want to look at is letting your brand take center stage. And I'm going to spend a bit of time on this. And the reason being is that when we get nervous, when we're in a crisis, we tend to be very sales driven, and we tend to be very product driven. And that creates a whole lot of issues. You need to focus on content that builds trust. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter what business you're in, you are actually a publisher of content. And content is a very powerful way of building trust from a marketing perspective in your business. You need to let your online evolve. And very important is being rigorous with your customer journey. And really that journey is, how do you get a prospect to know you, to like you, to trust you, to try you, to buy you and rebuy you? And importantly is, what data and what measures are you going to put in place from a marketing perspective? Because there is nothing worse than just throwing money down a marketing hole and actually not seeing a return for it. Next slide, please. So let's start with strategy now more than ever. Let's face it, everything has changed. The industry in which you operate, I guarantee you, has changed. There are new entrants. There are people that have exited the industry. There are players in the industry who have forward integrated. There are some that may have backward integrated. I have no doubts that the customers in your industry have changed. Not only how they buy, but what they value and what they see as important. You may have to totally relook your segments. For example, you may not segment on demographics or industry type, but you may need to now, for example, look at digital maturity. So it's very important to take a hardcore look, not only at your industry, but your customers, your suppliers, your partners, your stakeholders, because everybody has kind of changed during this time. Next slide, please. So on the screen there, you'll see a whole lot of kind of what we call marketing tactics. And often what happens in businesses is that we tend to be very tactically driven. The reason is that it's much easier to do an email campaign, to do a bit of online advertising, to do a bit of editorial or whatever it may be. But the truth of the matter is, each and every one of these tactics is absolutely useless without a strategy. In fact, when you have a robust strategy in place, it makes your tactics work 10 times harder. And that is the reason why you need to start with strategy first. Next slide, please. So let's have a look when we're talking strategy, what are some of the core elements that we need to think about? The fact of the matter, and Seth Godin put this so aptly when he said, everyone is not your customer. The temptation in a crisis is to market to absolutely everybody and put your net out as far as you can. The worst thing that you can do is try and be everything to everyone. In fact, what you need to be doing at this point is being so crystal clear about your ideal client and profiling them to such an extent that you could actually go out with a sniper gun and hunt them down. Marketing is only effective when you are bringing in a consistent stream of your ideal prospect. And what is it that constitutes an ideal prospect or an ideal client? These are customers who respect your difference. They're prepared to pay a premium for it. They really value what it is you deliver. They are profitable. And most importantly, they are prepared to recommend and to refer you. Next slide, please. The next aspect that you need to think about is you really need to avoid the risk of blending in. You need to focus on standing out. And a core part of your strategy is what is that compelling differentiator that is really going to blow your customers away. And by the way, if you are thinking that your compelling differentiator is great service, years of experience, or good product, it's actually not enough to compete. Those are aspects that you need to have in place either way. They are not the differentiators that are going to ensure that your customers keep coming back for more. Next slide, please. So you can't just worry about digital at this time. It's not just about digital ads. Being in digital is not enough to grow a sustainable and successful brand. You need an all-encompassing solution that puts your brand right at the center of your marketing activities. In fact, you need crystal clear clarity of what is your brand essence. And I want to share a clip with you. And this is a brand that is just absolutely superb of putting their brand at the center of every single marketing activity they do. And I want to show you this ad that they put out during the pandemic. And what you'll see, it's not product driven, but it really centers on what their brand stands for. Please play the clip. So for those of you that do know the Dove brand, the essence, the brand essence of what they communicate is that you are beautiful no matter what you are or who you are. And that Dove is there to promote your natural beauty. So as you can see in that ad, you know, they've taken a situation, but they haven't kind of left behind what is the essence of their brand that they want to communicate. Next slide, please. So another great example of, you know, awesome campaigns and a brand which is one of my favorites is Nike, because the core essence of the Nike brand is, you know, that everybody's an athlete, you know, bringing excellence and innovation to every single athlete in the world. And they did an awesome campaign of really getting people to send clips of them exercising in their houses, doing, push-ups on their walls and, running around their gardens, and really put that together to say, now's your chance. We're going to display you to the rest of the world. So a great example, once again, of staying core to that message of bringing inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Next slide. So if you're in a position that you haven't really thought about what your brand stands for and what you want to be known for, here are some great questions that you can ask. The first is, and very importantly, why do you do what you do? And I'm sure you've all been exposed to Simon Sinek, who highlights in the golden circle that the why you do what you do is critical to business success. And in my mind, if you can effectively unpack that from a business strategy perspective, it becomes your brand purpose of why you do what you do. You need to understand what is it that your brand stands for and what is it you want to be known for. Whenever anybody thinks of your particular brand, what are those words that they want associated? What is it that they want to connect you with? Very, very importantly, what is your story? And story is very, very important because story helps people connect emotionally with your brand. And that is one of the cornerstones of great brands, is that they connect emotionally. Next slide, please. So from an emotional perspective, you want to make sure that your employees inside the business absolutely adore you. They are your biggest brand ambassadors. You want to ensure that your customers are your greatest fans, that they are advocating you and referring you out there. And you also want to make sure that your business is a platform for positive change and that you're reaching out to those communities that you need to. In fact, I believe as marketing evolves, that your kind of social conscience and your ability to impact the world in a powerful and compelling way is what is going to drive your brand success. I wanted to share a great example of a business called Warby Parker. They're based in the US. Very compelling story, very compelling brand promise, and really just an incredible brand that connects in adding value. So Warby Parker was started by two young guys. One guy, his glasses broke, and as he was a student, he couldn't afford the outrageous prices of frames, did some research and understood that the eye industry was dominated by a single company that was keeping the prices artificially high. And then based on that, kind of did some research, understood that there were 1 billion people worldwide who lacked access to glasses. And so Warby Parker was formed. And what is so amazing about this business, they totally kind of reinvented the business model, designed their own glasses, found the right kind of manufacturers who wouldn't rip them off. But their business proposition, which is just so compelling from a brand perspective, is every time you buy a pair of glasses from Warby Parker, they donate one to someone who needs glasses and can't afford them. In fact, they've developed a whole entrepreneurial network that actually distributes those glasses. So very, very powerful in the context of story and brand essence. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, whether you like it or not, whether you are in professional services, whether you're in manufacturing, whether you produce widgets, you are in fact a publisher, and you need to build content that connects people with your brand and not just to sell a product. What is important is that your brand creates affinity. You know you've done the best job of promoting your brand when your clients, when your advocates, when your ambassadors are actually sharing your message out there. So your ultimate objective is to get your audience to share content. Did you know that conversion rates are 6 times higher from content adopters, and that content gets 3 times more leads per rand than search ads. So based on this, if you have a robust content strategy in place, you will ensure that you are generating meaningful content and that it's not just product and cost based. Next slide, please. So it's not to say that selling is not important, but in essence, brand building works hand in hand with short-term sales activations. From a brand building perspective, the stuff that you're doing is much more longer term, but what it does do is it creates brand equity so that when you do start to do some sales activation, your brand has a lot of meaning and trust that has been developed, and it does influence future sales. What your brand building does is that it emotionally primes people to buy, and we know in essence that people love to buy, but they hate to be sold to. And that's really kind of what you want to achieve from a marketing perspective. It's very much focused on brand, and your message is quite broad. It's quite mass. You want to get it out to quite a few people. When you look at activations, these could be campaigns that you do online. They could do sales activations or campaigns that you put in place in your business. What these activations do is they leverage brand equity. They focus on generating sales now. The message is very, very persuasive. Yes, there is a focus on product marketing, and you're very targeted and it's very measurable. You can identify how many leads exactly you've got in. You can understand how many of those leads you have been able to convert and what has been your return on your marketing spend. But what a lot of organizations don't understand from a marketing perspective is that marketing is not just about driving sales and product the whole time. If you do that, you are not going to develop a brand that builds trust with your target market. And as I said at the beginning, trust is a cornerstone of marketing. Let's move to the next slide. So I wanted to share a few examples of some companies that have really done a great job in this space. I don't know if any of you have been exposed to Goop. Goop was started by Gwyneth Paltrow, and it really is a wellness and lifestyle company. And although it has evolved into e-commerce, it didn't actually start off as an e-commerce an e-commerce company. Its starting point was and continues to be cutting edge wellness and lifestyle content and advice. And so there are experts from around the world that give input, talk about trends, talk about research. And really, this is the way that they have built a massive following so that when they did take an e-commerce route, they had high levels of trust and people were actually just salivating to buy what was recommended on the site. Next slide, please. So the next example I wanted to share is actually a South African-based company called Switch Beauty, run by a very passionate 20-year-old. And really what she does is really educates and builds trust the whole time. She has editorial tutorials that are run by experts. She integrates research in. She has demos. She has influencers kind of advising which are the best products, which are the ones that they would actually recommend. And in that way, she's able to kind of sell product because she has such a high level of trust in terms of her target market. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a bit now about being rigorous with your customer journey. Often what we do in business is that we tend to have a sales funnel approach. What that means is that we see our business as kind of being a broad funnel where we're trying to get as many leads into the funnel as we can. And what we're trying to do is just close those leads. What we do know is that people invariably will not come to your website and buy immediately. The way that I like to refer to it is you need a micro yes from your potential client in terms of each time that they can take another step of the journey with you. You know, it's much like dating. It's not that you meet somebody and you say to them the next day, I want to marry you. It's kind of these little steps that you take with dating and getting closer and trusting more. And that's really what we need to do from a marketing perspective. So as I said, the definition of marketing is getting a suspect who has the need for your offering to know you, to like you, and trust you. So what you need to do is to understand in terms of this customer journey, what are the obstacles and the pain points that people are going to have along this journey? And based on that, what content can you put together for them, and across what channels would you want to put that content? So for example, you're going to need different kind of content. You're going to need content that educates. For example, you know, what are some frequently asked questions? You may need a great profile for your business. Then you're going to need some content as they become a prospect and moving to become a customer, content that builds trust and helps to close. You're therefore going to need stuff like case studies and testimonials. Another important point that I want to make about this customer journey is that we tend to stop marketing to customers when they become customers. And, you know, I've often been involved in businesses where they are really surprised that their customers bought a service or offering that they had from a competitor. And when we actually unpack that and understand why, the customer often says, oh, but I didn't know that my supplier offered that. You know, because the reason being is we stop marketing to them. And the reason why we need to carry on marketing is the most important part of this journey is when you can actually enhance the lifetime value of a customer by ensuring that they only buy from you, that they see you as a partner as opposed to just a service provider, and most importantly, that they are advocating you and recommending you to a whole lot of people like them. Next slide, please. I'm intrigued at how many clients I work with who, you know, call us in. They've been doing paid for media for so long, pump a whole lot of money every single month into this channel and just are not getting the leads that they want in their business. We then go and analyze their website. We see that it doesn't meet technical requirements. We see that it's slow to load, that it's not mobile friendly, that it doesn't have compelling content on, it doesn't highlight what is the core marketing message of that business, it doesn't highlight the key problem that they solve, there are no strong calls to action. And another metric for those of you that do understand your website performance is your bounce rates. So people are kind of coming onto the site, they stay there for 2 seconds and then they bounce off. So really, there's no use in doing paid for media if you haven't got a proper website in place. Your website, in fact, is the heart of your marketing. It's where all your social media links, it's where all your analytics kind of come together. And it's critical that that website is the best that it possibly can be. Often we go into businesses and they haven't updated their website in 18 months. They haven't kind of looked at the analytics of which pages are being looked at. So that is really your starting point. In order to develop the correct content, you need to ensure that the content on your website is SEO'd and is based on keyword research. So you can really understand what it is your target market are searching for. It's no good developing a whole lot of content or a whole lot of website copy that hasn't got these keywords integrated. Based on that, you're able to develop what is my kind of content calendar and what is it that I can be talking about my brand that focuses on what it is I want to be known for, the essence of my brand. Often what we find with social media is companies feel, oh, I need to be on social media. Is the social platform that they're on relevant for their business? Sometimes not. So, often from a B2B, a business to business perspective, we strongly recommend LinkedIn as kind of the core channel for lead generation. Whereas obviously, if you're a business to consumer, you're going to be much more focused on Instagram and Facebook. Once you have all that stuff in place, you're in a great position to then start looking at campaigns, integrating paid media, email marketing, and then as you become more sophisticated, to look at marketing automation systems. But really the key point I'm going to say here is don't run before you can walk. Don't pump money into a whole lot of digital advertising when you don't have the basics in place. Next slide, please. So the final point that I wanted to talk to is using data to measure performance and drive strategy. Gone are the days when marketing was just about throwing money, sitting under the tree, and just praying that you would get a return. Those days are gone. And in fact, today, every single cent that you spend on marketing has to have a return on investment. And in fact, you need a scorecard of key performance indicators and measures that are going to drive your marketing. Next slide, please. What's very interesting is that we're not always comfortable to put marketing metrics in place. We're very comfortable with the finance and the sales, and those are really easy to measure, cash flow, new leads, profits, and revenue growth. Next slide, please. But from a marketing perspective, it's a lot more difficult to really, unpack what are these metrics that we need to be looking at. Next slide, please. And unfortunately in marketing, there are a lot of vanity measures as well, ones that get us very excited. But the fact of the matter is, where does the rubber hit the road? So if you're looking at the number of fans that you have on Facebook, it's absolutely meaningless. What's more meaningful is how engaged is your target market, and to what extent are they actively sharing your content. It's all very well measuring the number of website visitors. The question is, how many of those visitors are unique, i.e. it's the first time they're coming back to your website? And very, very importantly, to what extent are they engaging with content on your website? Are they downloading your content, an ebook that you may have on the website? Are they signing up for your newsletters? And the biggest one for me is we get so excited when people attend webinars, attend events. In fact, we had a client this morning, all very excited. They had 300 people on the call. So we did a great job of getting the people to the webinar. But, they're all excited. I said, no time to get excited. Let's understand how many leads we actually get as a result of that webinar, and then we can start celebrating. Next slide, please. So I wanted to give you just a bit of a framework in terms of a way to look at marketing metrics. So certainly there are some ones around reach that you should look at. This measures brand awareness and the traffic that you get to your different channels. As I said before, that unique visitors is a very important metric in terms of understanding kind of new prospects that are coming to your different channels. The next sit around act. This is what action do your potential suspects take in order to take the next step down the funnel. So, do they come back to your website? How much time are they spending on your website? Are they taking action to demonstrate that they're really interested in what it is you're about? You then need to have some convert measures. These really look at to what extent you're converting your leads to paying customers. This could sit around lead to customer ratio, i.e. how many new leads are you getting in the business and how many of those are converting to customers. And a very, very important measure is engagement. And this really talks to long-term relationships that customers have with you and measure the level of advocacy, the extent to which they really adore you. And those are measures like Net Promoter Score, customer lifetime value, retention rates, and the level of referrals. Next slide, please. So I wanted to finish off by saying that marketing done effectively and systematically in your business does work. The sad reality of marketing is it's not a one-day wonder. It requires consistency, it requires discipline, and really the focus for you as a business is to educate and to build trust as opposed to sell. And I think that that's a great mind shift that we need in the context of marketing. At the heart of all your marketing effort is your brand. It's what you stand for, and it's why you do what you do. I want you to finish off by showing a clip, and then we're going to come back to the presentation to field any questions. But, you know, having been the marketing director of Nandos, what a lot of people don't appreciate by Nandos is they see their ads and they see that they're funny and they see that they're quirky and they're clever. But what sits behind the Nandos brand is a strong sense of purpose. There are strong values that drive the brand and a very strong essence. And this clip, which I'm going to show you, actually wasn't shown to the public. My sense is that it was a clip that was used internally in the business, but it's very powerful because it demonstrates the power of brand. Please, can you show the clip?
We first turned the Nandos Flame on in 1987. It was an exceptionally difficult time to start a business. The flame we lit that day has continued to burn, not only in that casa, but in thousands of casas around the world. Today, we turn that flame off and the grills will go cold. This is the first time this will happen in South Africa. There are a lot of difficult first times happening in South Africa and in the world this week. But we don't do this with sadness. We do this with pride, with courage, with passion. We do this because for the first time, our flame must leave our home and go to yours and stay there for now. It's been called social distancing, but we like to think of it as social togetherness because we're in this together, even though for now we must be apart. Today, I feel energized and inspired. I have full confidence in our country led by President Cyril Ramaphosa. And I'm beyond proud of the Nandos leadership and Nandokas who have stood as one and lived the Nandos values and purpose. The way we have behaved today will define our legacy way into the future. Together, we can flatten the curve. May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung, and may you stay forever young. Stay safe, stay home, and when we're all ready, we'll fire it up once more.
Great, so that brings me to the end of my presentation. Ash, very happy to field any questions. If anybody would like a summary, kind of like a cheat sheet of the presentation with the key strategies, more than happy to mail that to you. Please just drop me a line and I will send it through to you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you for those insights. I hope that you found them valuable. I certainly learned a thing or two myself. We don't actually have any questions that have come through on the Q&A function. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to type a question in. If anybody sitting out there watching the webinar still has a question, if they'd like to pop that into the Q&A section. Alternatively, you can contact Donna directly after the webinar, or myself at BDO. Donna obviously on the marketing related questions, and I will be able to assist you with any other business issues that you might have. I will put you in touch with the relevant person at BDO.
Any comments would be great as well, Ash. You know, any thoughts that the audience have would be great.
Yes, feel free to share, everybody. All right, we have a request from Tiernis Bosch, who has asked us to email him the cheat sheet. Thank you, we'll do that. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you for attending. Thank you very much, Donna, for sharing your insights and for taking the time to connect with our clients. And wishing everybody a great afternoon further. Stay warm and stay safe.
Thanks so much, Ash.